The horrific acts these superpowered beings have committed will really make you think twice about their status as a hero. Neymar. Neymar is a complex figure. Originally a bad guy, fans thought he was so compelling with his twisted sense of justice that the writers had him flip sides to fight the Third Reich, as was the fashion at the time. And so, technically speaking, Neymar became one of Marvel's very first anti-heroes, which is why he's earned the first spot on this video. He's not your typical do-gooder. See, he's fine with offing folks if it gets results. And that's not all. Despite his heroic change of heart, Neymar typically swings back to his villainous ways every now and then, and when he does some serious damage. Like there was that time in Avengers vs. X-Men when he went nuts with power after being given the Phoenix Force and literally wiped out Wakanda. Then there was that time he ordered a giant humanoid whale Giganto to smash New York City to pieces, and one time he even pushed the button to detonate an entire alternate Earth, populated and all. Dude really does not give a darn about civilian casualties, so to say that this underwater powerhouse isn't one to play nice is definitely a vast understatement. He's not as calculatedly brutal as some other Marvel heroes, but his hot-headedness and aggression sure make him a wild card in the Marvel world. A fish out of water in the hero game, swimming in a sea of moral ambiguity, all puns intended. Next up is Red Hood. Jason Todd, once Batman's Robin, took a dark turn after a brutal encounter with the Joker. His turn towards the dark side came as a result of fans getting to vote on whether he lived or perished in a comic storyline back in '88, and you can guess which one they chose, with the boy wonder meeting his end when the Joker snuffed him out with a crowbar. Fast forward years later, and Jason came back from the dead with a grudge. Reborn as the Red Hood, he ditched the whole hero thing and went on a revenge spree. He wasn't playing nice anymore. Gone were the days of just catching crooks. No. Now he was all about taking out his enemies with no mercy. And boy oh boy, his list of enemies was long. He antagonized his Robin successors. He blamed Batman for not offing the Joker, thinking Bat let the Joker slide. In fact, when he first came back, he absolutely brutalized the Joker in Under the Hood, even pulling the same crowbar trick that the Joker had used on him. And then he went on to force Batman into an ultimatum, deciding whose life should be spared, his own or the Joker's. Later in the story Battle for the Cowl, he took on the Batman mantle in Bruce Wayne's absence and committed some horrifying crimes in Batman's name and image. Even though he's gone from teaming up with villains to being more of an anti-hero, the Red Hood's quest for payback against crime, even if it meant ending people, went way beyond what Batman would ever approve of. If you're enjoying the video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. Next up, let's talk about the Punisher. Frank Castle started off as a kind of hero who did bad stuff for what he thought were good reasons, but as time went on, things got way darker. He stopped caring about the reasons and just went full throttle into violence. He used to have this code, this idea that he was taking out the bad guys for a purpose, but now it's like he doesn't even need a reason. If he deems somebody as evil, they're as good as toast in his book. I mean, this guy's done some seriously messed up stuff. We're talking about ripping out people's guts with his bare freaking hands. And get this, he's taken out more people than you would even want to imagine. Literally upwards of like 50,000. It's hard to see how he could get any more brutal than he already is. Next up is the Comedian from the Watchmen series. Edward Blake, known as the Comedian, was a vigilante who towed the line between heroism and downright cruelty. He saw the world as a messed up place and believed that people were just as naturally messed up too. While he did fight on the side of good, it's really hard to call Blake a hero. I mean, come on, he didn't sign up for the gig to protect the good guys. He did it because he enjoys hurting the bad ones. Sadistic to be sure. As proof of this, he joined up with a sketchy government program and did some awful things in the Vietnam War. And the Comedian didn't regret any of it. In fact, he was almost proud of how far he went. He even attempted to assault his own teammate, Silk Spectre. Now, the Comedian is an anti-hero by definition. He fought on the side of the good, sure, but his dark side was a lot darker than most. He was a mix of violence, nihilism, and twisted morals all wrapped into one messed up package. Next Next up, let's talk Blade. So a good rule of thumb for comic book characters is that if you wield a sword, you're probably gonna teeter more towards extreme violence, given that swords come with obligatory dismemberment. But when you're literally named after said weapon, you're basically committed to sticking yourself in the brutality box. Now the thing is, Blade stands out in the Marvel world because he's one of those characters that writers use to unleash their most horrifyingly violent ideas. Why? Well, I mean, vampires aren't exactly garnering a lot of sympathy from the audience, so there aren't many tears shed when they bite the dust. And Blade, he gets that. He knows there's not much space for being nice and decent when you're literally fighting against vampires. So he brings an intensity that's seriously off the charts. Like, consider how if Blade decided to go after regular humans with that same lethal penchant, he'd probably be recognized as Marvel's most brutal supervillain. But hey, he's sticking to the bloodsuckers. Still, makes you wonder how far an anti-hero can go before they cross the line. Next, let's talk about Black Adam. Black Adam seriously did not start out that heroic. In fact, he's done some things that even the nastiest bad guys would find disturbing. Black Adam is a story of good intentions gone haywire. He was given powers to help out, but ended up being all about himself. First, he offed his own nephew in order to get the other half of the power bestowed onto them by the wizard Shazam. Definitely not exactly a heroic origin story. Later on, he became a ruler thinking that he knew what justice was all about, but instead of playing by the rules, he did some seriously messed up things like orchestrating unalivings and going on what was essentially a meaningless rampage that ended loads of innocent people's lives in a country called Balia, just because he was upset about not being able to find the bad guys right away. Definitely would not describe that as heroic. Now, even though there are technically worse villains out there, his actions were so bad that basically every hero ever teamed up to take him down at one point or another, and yet he is still considered a hero himself. Wolverine. Wolverine right from the get-go was one tough and kinda scary dude. His story is far from sunshine and rainbows. Like, he's been through some seriously tough stuff. Like, his backstory is just riddled with tragedy. He accidentally offed his parents, he's been living since like the 16th century and has watched everyone he knows and loves age and perish, except for his brutal nemesis that won't leave him or his loved ones alone. He got experimented on against his will to have adamantium fused to his skeleton. I mean, the guy's been through the ringer, so I guess that somewhat justifies all the horrible things he's done, but come on. Did you really have to visit Matsuo every year just to chop off one of his body parts? Even he thought being killed would have been more merciful. I mean, sure, the X-Men did try to help him be more human, but when you literally start off your career as a living weapon, it's kinda tough to shake that off. Sometimes they even used his animalistic tendencies to their advantage, as Wolverine is definitely not the type to back down. No. When someone threatens peace or hurts innocence, he's out there, claws out, ready to bring the pain, and let me tell you, when Wolverine does go all out, it's nothing short of jaw-droppingly intense. He might have gone a bit too far sometimes, but for him, it's all about protecting those who can't protect themselves, and dealing out a whole lot of pain to those he believes deserves it. Harley Quinn. When we're talking about someone whose origin stories had her literally fall in love with the most diabolical maniac in all of Gotham, nay, in all of DC, saying that her morality is ambiguous is a vast understatement. She used to be a villain who would not hold back on brutality, even when it came to youngsters like the Robins. But then things flipped. Post 52, she took a turn aiming to do some good with a little bit of heroic retribution. In the new 52, she wore the anti-heroine cape, trying to balance out the scales by fighting on the side of justice. One of her big moments was when she faced off against the Joker, and even more notably when she helped the Suicide Squad. I mean, clearly she's on this path to redemption. And who knows, perhaps she's inching closer and closer to becoming a full-blown hero. Probably not. Next on the list is Deadpool. Wade Wilson's got this thing for violence, which is like his go-to solution for just about everything. Now, he can and has shown the potential to be a great villain, like that time he eliminated everybody in the Marvel universe. But deep down, he's not all bad. Despite his love for chaos and mayhem, he sort of means well. He takes on the bad guys specifically, but he does it in a way that's a little extreme. Like, Sorry, seriously extreme. Making puppets out of enemies' leftovers? Yeah, that's way over the line. Eating the remains of his enemies? Absolutely bonkers. But in his mind, it's all part of fighting the good fight. He's a chaotic good guy, twisted, crazy, but somehow still on the side of good. Seems like nothing is below Deadpool. He was even willing, ready, and capable to become the Herald of Galactus. He literally shot a dude in the noggin just because he said he enjoyed the Star Wars prequels. Going too far? Try never far enough. And last on our list, we have Batman. Yeah, plot twist. Bet you didn't expect good old Bats on this list, did ya? That's right, y'all. Though he's touted as a hero, what with his rule about not ending lives and not using any lethal weapons like firearms, he's definitely crossed the lethal line on more than one occasion. Let's rewind to the early days, shall we? Back then, like in Batman #1 for example, Hugo Strange pulls off this stunt where he turns some mentally ill folks into giants. Now, dealing with these giants wasn't exactly a cakewalk for Batman, leaving him to resort to some extreme measures to deal with people who were formerly just innocent mental patients. For one of these poor suckers, he actually hung him from the bat plane. Yeah, that happened. There was this other time where he was just unwilling to deal with the KG Beast anymore, so he literally left him to rot trapped in a sewer. If he proves anything, it's that you don't really need flashy weapons to be an anti-hero. Really, all you gotta do is break a few rules. As always, if there's a brutal anti-hero who crossed the line that you think I've missed in today's video, feel free to let me know down in the comments. This has been AJ with Top 10 Nerd, and I'll catch you all in another video. Peace out, nerds.